Hey everybody, and welcome to Generally Speaking, the podcast that bridges the worlds of pop culture and personal development. I'm your host, Jennifer Snook. I am so happy to be here with you guys today. I hope everything has been going well in your world. Before we dive in, if you're watching this on YouTube, please make sure you reach out and smash that subscribe button. I would appreciate it. Well, you guys, I am recording this early Friday morning because as soon as I'm done here, I am bombing once again up to the Bay. I would like to report that my mom is doing great, but unfortunately, we've had a bit of a setback. Last Sunday, I was on the phone with my brother, literally planning my mom's 75th birthday. We had chosen the date. I had even called my kids to tell them to put that date on hold. And then a couple hours later, I get a call from my brother saying that I have to take mom into the hospital, and they were on their way up there. And that was Sunday afternoon, and like I said, it's Friday morning, and she has been in the hospital ever since. They can't figure out what's wrong. She has an ongoing fever. They can't figure out where the infection is coming from, so they don't know how to treat it. So she is frustrated. We are frustrated, and quite frankly, I just want to get up there and get my hands on my mom. So that's what I'm doing. So as soon as I'm done here, I'm in the car, I'm heading up, and spending the weekend exactly where I belong, right next to my mom. There is so much to talk about, you guys. OC premiered last night, and it was hot, hot, hot. Honestly, I think we are in for a fabulous season, and I am so excited about it. But before we talk OC, you guys, can we just please talk for 1 second about that crazy thing that happened on TikTok with that woman that went over to that party that she thought she was invited to, and she took that huge it's antipasta, right? I always get confused with that word, but I'm not Italian, so it's not my thing. That she took that huge antipasta dish over, and then she gets there and she just got yelled at and treated like shit. And I guess the guy that owns the house was saying, people were saying, oh, the guy's in there and he's pissed off. He doesn't even know you. So the woman gets on TikTok and she's sobbing about how she was treated at this house that she thought she was invited to. And then the people who own the house, then they got on TikTok and they started clapping back at her, saying that they didn't know who she was. But I mean, for the love of God, were these people raised by wolves? I mean, honestly, I did see what that woman said that owned the place. It was her house. So I did see the way she spoke and the way she engaged. And so it is possible that she was raised by wolves. Maybe. It was horrible. And honestly, to the woman who was crying, next time you encounter something horrible like that, don't go on TikTok and cry about those shitty people, because truly that was not a reflection of you. That was just a reflection of the fact that they were raised by wolves, allegedly. Anyway, moving on to Teresa Watch. So get this, you guys, you know that right now Teresa is down in Australia and she is on tour with a bunch of drag queens, and they have her up on stage, performing basically. And Teresa is not a performer, you guys. Whitney Rose is up there with her. Whitney has the performer in her. Teresa, not so much. And it's obvious. It's really obvious. So obvious that that company that's producing Teresa turned off comments on the posts that they tagged Teresa on. So they're posting about their event, right? They're posting about their show, and they're obviously tagging Teresa. But anything that Teresa is tagged in, they are limiting the comments because they don't want the heat that comes with Teresa associated with them. I mean, it's funny. They will use her to sell the tickets, but they don't really want to be associated with all that comes with her. And speaking of Teresa, she's on this drag tour. That's what she's doing right now. She calls herself booked and busy, but she's in Australia with a bunch of drag queens on stage, out of her element. And the only other thing that Teresa has going for her right now is her podcast. But truth be told, you guys, it's really not going for her. It's not going for her at all. If you want to know the real state of Teresa's life, go back and listen to her latest podcast. She interviewed two people that I personally had never heard of. Apparently, they were the winners of a reality show called The Snake. Anyway, Teresa interviewed them. And truthfully, these two people that she had on the pod carried the whole thing. She stammered and stuttered through it. She can't hold a conversation. She can't ask a pertinent question. She does not know how to engage and keep the story moving forward. She just can't do it. And truth be told, if there are many more episodes that sound like that last one, I just can't imagine that company that produces her keeping her on their roster. That podcast is hardly hanging on, but yet it's all Teresa has to hold on to. So that girl's in a pickle. Unlike her sister-in-law, Melissa, who just walked away from her podcast because her sugar cookie, God, I can't say that, because her sugar cookie company is turning into a sugar cookie empire, you guys. Melissa walked away from her podcast because she needs the time to devote to the cookies. And you know what's funny? I said this just earlier today. Teresa loves to talk about karma. She loves it. But it's funny, if you look at her and her sister-in-law now, it really seems like the karma has come for Teresa, whereas the good fortune has landed on Miss Gorga. And I mean, there's just no denying it. In other news, we found out this week that Brock Davies did indeed cheat on Sheena Shea when she was pregnant with their daughter, Summer Moon. She said that it happened when they were living in San Diego, and that after a family day together, Brock sat her down and divulged the whole thing because he couldn't move forward in their relationship without telling her. And he felt like he was doing it because he felt like he didn't deserve this second chance and he was self-sabotaging himself. But he decided to break that pattern and tell her so that he could try to get out of his way. And obviously it looks like Sheena forgave him and they have moved on and they are trying to grow their family. So, I mean, good for them. They seem like a solid couple. And I mean, sometimes relationships go through really rocky times before you find your groove. Speaking of relationships and rocky times and finding your groove, it seems like our girl Eva Marcille from Atlanta is back with her ex-husband, the father of two of her children. Eva and her husband, Michael Sterling, were seen together at the Essence Festival, and she posted a picture of them looking very cozy with a quote that said something like, "I'm floating." And I mean, good for them. If the two of them are finding love again, I am here for it. And I'm not sure if Joe and Gia's big plea to the president is really getting them anywhere, but Gia did come out and apologize for her bad timing. She says, "Looking back, I realized that I shouldn't have posted that on the 4th of July, a day that means so much to this country." There's Gia thinking that her big faux pas was because she posted on the 4th of July. She says, "I didn't want to make this about politics or privilege. I don't think I'm privileged." She doesn't think she's privileged. Gia said on her podcast, "I realized that posting on the 4th of July, a day that means so much to this country, wasn't the right time." The 4th of July? What in God's name does the 4th of July have to do with anything? Gia goes on to say, "That wasn't the message that I was trying to send. I wasn't trying to be political or make it about privilege. I don't think I'm privileged. I just want my dad home." She just wants her dad home, everybody. Well, guess what, Gia? We all want things. But honestly, in that poor girl's defense, the reason why it seems like Gia's deflecting and not taking any real accountability is truthfully because she's just Teresa's daughter and she doesn't even understand what she did wrong. She thinks the issue was about timing, about the 4th of July. But newsflash, Gia, it was never about the 4th of July. Never. The issue is about perspective. You see your father and the fact that your mother is struggling and wants his help. But the truth is, your situation in sadness is cake compared to so many others. And because of that, when the world watches you, they see privilege wrapped in a plea for exception, and honestly, it just feels gross. Gia's post wasn't malicious. It was disconnected. And listen, Gia, I don't think your dad is a bad dude. But the truth is, he never became a citizen. He is a convicted criminal, and he did self-deport. And you weren't tone deaf because you posted on the 4th of July. You were tone deaf because you don't understand why people are upset. And until you do understand, every apology is just going to feel like another symptom of the same sickness. Privilege without perspective. Anyway, that is enough about the Giudices. Let's talk the McBee Dynasty real quick, you guys. We have officially met the mother, and that is huge, right? I love this show so much, you guys. I'm telling you, it just keeps getting better and better. And I know that he has a couple screws loose, but I'm telling you, that Steve McBee Sr. is so entertaining to me. And I'm telling you, the bottom line is I grew up with a bunch of guys who remind me of him so much. So there is something that almost feels like family when I look at him and his kids. I'm telling you, I grew up with people like that. So I get it. I mean, remember, I am from a farming town. I am a Gilroy girl. And granted, we grew garlic, but I'm telling you, a farmer is a farmer is a farmer. Also, you know what else I plan on watching, you guys? Have you seen King's Court? Bravo is teeing that up for us, and I am diving in head first. So make sure you watch it because I promise you, we are going to be talking about it. We're also going to start recapping the McBee Dynasty because honestly, how could I not? I mean, honestly, I have to. It's too good. You know what else was so good this week, you guys? The Valley The Valley was insane. So the show opens up and it's just after the engagement. Everybody is down in the little luau area where there's food and drinks. Well, everybody that is, except Kristen and Luke, who are still upstairs, I don't know, kissing or whatever. Janet and Jason weren't there, right? Because they just invited themselves from that night. But also Danny and Nia weren't there. And Danny and Nia weren't there because they spent the whole day out on a boat. And not just on a boat, but out on a boat, drinking in the sun. It's exhausting, right? It'll kick anybody's ass. So they went back, they were taking a nap because I'm sure they could hardly even stand up at that point. But they're out there and everybody's wondering where they are. And of course, Jasmine is the most pissed off. Well, if I can be here, why can't they? And then eventually Luke and Kristen come out, and then Danny and Nia come out right after them. And everyone is just completely disgusted that they couldn't come out before the happy couple did. So the vibes aren't vibing. And then there's Brittany, and she is completely bent out of shape, really upset that she wasn't involved in the whole engagement, the surprise, that she wasn't in the know. She says, you know, Kristen is like my sister. She's my best friend. I just don't understand. I mean, I love her. I just wanted to know. I just thought that I should be I. It was all about I. I just wanted to see her reaction when she got engaged. Brittany was making it all about her. She says, you know, just to know about it would have been nice. I mean, honestly, just to know about it. Why? Because that makes you feel good. That makes you feel like you're in the know. So you're more important. Does that give you some type of value? Does that knock you up a notch on the Kristen friend list? The fact that Brittany made that all about her is just more evidence to the fact that Brittany has a lot of inner work that she really needs to start working on. I mean, the truth is Jax's problems always pull focus because he's the loudest. But Brittany has a lot of work that she needs to do too. And I mean a lot. And not just for her, but for her son, and for her future. While everyone's mingling, Kristen tells everyone to zip their lips and not say a word about the engagement. And I'm telling you, she was very clear about this. Then there's a fire dancer, and after the fire dancer's done, Zach walks over to Nia and Danny. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows that I now have the Nia name correct, because there was a week where I was interchanging Mia and Nia quite a lot, but I think we're good now. So Zach walks over and tells them that everyone's annoyed by them. Everyone is annoyed that they weren't there on time. Everyone was annoyed that they were late. He tells them, I think there's a lot of resentments. Nia says, with who? He says, with everybody. And Zach tells Nia, I really think you need to talk to them, which is hands down the last thing Nia wants to hear. And Danny hears all of this, and he is getting darker and darker by the minute. And Nia's like, no, protect your peace. Don't give them any power. You can tell that she talks him down a lot. Then Luke and Kristen go to bed, probably to make a baby. And the rest of the crew heads back to Brittany's room, which is actually attached to Jason and Janet's room. And remember, they didn't go. So they're in their room now, waking up to this rowdy noise of all these drunk people coming in. And now Janet feels more uncomfortable than ever. The next morning, Kristen and Luke wake up in engagement bliss, and as soon as Kristen picks up her phone, she sees a text message from none other than Jax Taylor saying, congratulations on your engagement. And Kristen is shocked. She cannot understand for the life of her how in God's name Jax knows. And I'm wondering the same thing. How does Jax know? And I automatically defaulted to Jesse. I'm thinking it had to have been Jesse because he can't keep his mouth shut. Kristen tells Zach about the text from Jax. And so Zach asks Jesse, hey, how did Jax know? And Jesse says, I have no idea. And I'm like, is he lying? And then next thing you know, Kristen is calling Brittany saying, can you believe I just woke up to this text from Jax? How would he know? And then ding-a-ling goes, well, I told him. What? You told him? Yeah, I told him. I mean, what? Kristen says, you know he texts the guys chat. And Brittany says, oh no, why would he do that? What is happening? Are we in an alternate universe suddenly? I mean, I just don't understand it. Is she dumb? I mean, sorry, but she is either stupid or that was just undercover vindictive, because I do not believe that just slipped out. I don't. I mean, was she that pissed that she wasn't involved in the proposal? I don't know, but I'm telling you, I am not looking at Brittany the same way. Then Jason and Janet decide if they should stay on the trip or go home early. And while they're deciding, Brittany goes over and she meets up with Kristen. And she says, I'm so sorry, Kristen. I just don't know what happened. I just word vomited. word vomited. And Kristen says, yeah, I'm annoyed by it, but truthfully, that's not the only thing I'm annoyed about. I'm annoyed about the fact that you constantly defend Janet and you never defend me. I mean, you can tell at this point, Kristen is done with Janet. And you know she's done with Janet when she brings up the fact that Janet came on the show as a fan. At this point, Kristen is mentioning it all. And Brittany says, well, listen, if you got such a problem with Janet, are you going to be okay on the boat tonight with her? And Kristen says, it doesn't matter. She's cardboard to me. And then it's time for everybody to board the boat. And can we please talk about the elephant or the Mooseknuckle in the room? What in God's name was happening in his pants? What was happening in Luke's pants? And what in God's name made him think that he should go out like that? I mean, sorry. What? Nobody needs a Mooseknuckle, ever. And also, can we talk about the fact that Zach's boyfriend literally looks like his son? And when he was holding his hand and they were walking onto that boat, I mean, it looked like a parent holding its child's hand. I'm sorry, it did. While Janet was sitting with Michelle and her boyfriend Aaron, Janet thought it would be a good idea to ask Michelle what it was that really attracted her to Jesse to begin with. And Michelle went on to say, Jesse wasn't always a douchebag. He used to be a nice guy. She said that he got douchier as he got a little money, which happens to so many. Then Luke stands up and thanks everyone for coming. He says, I know there's been some confusion and some people have felt a little left out. Well, I just want to say thank you to everyone for coming and making this so special for the two of us. And then they cut to Jax's house with Schwartz walking right through the door, and he is not in there for more than 10 seconds when Jax says, hey, guess what? Guess who got engaged today? Back on the boat, Michelle and Janet are talking about Aaron's ex and who it is that keeps bringing her around the group. So they call Zach over, and when Zach hears that they're calling him, he swings by and grabs Kristen, and the two of them go over and they all sit down for a chat. Kristen and Zach think that Sheena's behind a bunch of the shit. Then that night at El Coyote comes up, and Kristen comes at Janet hard. She says to her, you spent all summer with your head up my ass telling me that you wanted to repair things, and then you scream at me like that? Janet says, I did want to repair things until I heard you say that my husband takes his ring off. Kristen said, I was only repeating what I heard. And the only reason why I said it is because you were coming for Danny and Nia. And I told you that, Janet. I told you that in person. And Kristen is hot. She is pissed. She goes back to the top of the boat where everybody else is. And she says, it is taking me everything I have not to throw that bitch off this boat. And Janet comes back with, I wasn't attacking anyone. All I did was say the truth out loud, that Danny sexually assaulted Jasmine and Michelle. And Kristen goes, sexually assaulted? That's it. And at that point, Kristen was out. She ran out and up to where everybody else was, and she says, it's taking me everything I have not to throw that bitch off this boat. She is trying to ruin Daniel. And then she goes on and she tells everyone what Janet said. And then Janet comes up and says, there have been other accusations. And then Danny and Nia walk over to confront them about those other accusations. And at this point, it is complete chaos. Nia thinks that using the word sexual assault is way too strong, and she is pissed. There is screaming coming from every direction, and thank God the boat is pulling up to the dock right at this moment. Thank God it is over. Otherwise, someone would have been thrown off that boat. I'm telling you, it was less of a boat ride and more of a nightmare. And Kristen walked off the boat literally saying, I've never been so mad. And then she says to Janet, you're a fucking fan, bitch. It was wild. It was so wild. I'm telling you, don't you? I always feel like when I'm on a boat like that, they're always, the trips are always too long. Like, I feel like they should always be half the time. That boat ride would have been so much better if it would have been half the time. Quite an episode. Congratulations, kids, once again. And honestly, I have decided that we can do the Valley without Jax. Honestly, there is enough. Because truthfully, Jax to me is like Teresa. There's no growth, and so it just gets boring. Just more of the same old repeated bullshit over and over again. I mean, Jax has been the same brand of dysfunction over and over and over for years. And truthfully, the same brand of dysfunction gets boring. If there's no growth, no change, I mean, it's no different than Teresa. It is no different than Teresa. But I digress. Enough about Teresa. Moving over to Miami, you guys. Miami! The show opens up with Alexia meeting with her life coach, and she goes on to tell him, I don't know what it is, but every time I maybe see a red flag, I just always go with my heart because I'm all about the heart. So even when I see a red flag, I just go with my heart. Which, let's be clear, is a lie that Alexia has been telling herself for years. And the real fact of the matter is that Alexia's decisions have nothing to do with her going with her heart and everything to do with her defaulting to her insecurities. The truth is, Alexia is not stuck in this dysfunctional relationship with Todd because her heart led her there. She's stuck in that relationship because she doesn't love herself and think enough of herself to choose better. And until she heals that relationship with herself, every other relationship that comes into her life will just be a mirror of that dysfunction. Because the truth is, until you change your relationship with yourself, the universe will keep bringing people into your life that are trying to teach you that same lesson, that you are worthy. The quality of the relationships in your life will not change until you change the quality of the relationship that you have with yourself. So Alexia can try to tell herself that she's going with her heart, but all she's really doing is continuing to choose people that don't choose her, because Alexia still hasn't chosen herself. And then Adriana tells us it is hurricane season, and we learn that during hurricane season, more people actually die from falling coconuts than they do from lightning strikes, which I didn't know. Did you? Then Alexia and Guerdy sit down for a lunch. Alexia is a little nervous because she feels like she's tiptoeing around Guerdy. But she goes on to tell Guerdy that she thinks that her and Julia need to have a face-to-face. Then we see Kiki with her son Shamar and his best friend. They meet up with Larsa, and Kiki's telling Larsa that she's really stressed because Shamar's birthday is coming up and she wants to make sure that her dad calls. She's really trying to build that relationship between her dad and her son. And then we meet Stephanie's hilarious husband. And can I just tell you, I love that guy. I mean, isn't he great? He is, I'm telling you, he is officially my new favorite. And he has such a soft heart, you guys. Did you hear her say that he buys muffins for the turtles on St. Bart's and leaves them around the road so they'll have something to snack on? I mean, hello, Angel. Then Julia and Guerdy do sit down for that face-to-face. Julia walks in, heart cracked open. At this point, she is ready to repair what's broken. I mean, you can see the sadness in her eyes. And not just from the distance that's formed, but you can tell that she is really broken up about the break. Because for Julia, this wasn't just about a falling out. This was about betrayal. Guerdy had spoken badly about her marriage and her role as a wife, and the fact that she went to France and had a facelift while Martina was having cancer treatment. And that shit cut Julia deep. And Guerdy listened, but the armor was up. For Guerdy, the silence that she got from Julia during her cancer battle, that felt like abandonment to her. And now you have these two women, they're sitting face to face, they're both holding on to pain, and they're both wanting peace, but neither one of them feels safe enough to completely let their guard down. There was no explosion between the two of them. This was something much quieter, more of a reckoning, because this was real for both of them. And healing takes more than just an apology. It takes time and accountability and two people that are willing to meet in the middle. And these two aren't quite there yet. Anyway, then we learn that Stephanie is estranged from her two sisters. Then it's time for Alexia's big goddess event with the life coach. All the women load into the sprinter, everyone that is except Lisa, who is late, very. The ladies call to check her ETA and she doesn't even pick up. And Lisa is over 2 hours late when she finally shows up. And she just hops in the sprinter like it's nothing, not an apology, not anything. And thank God that new girl Stephanie hits her hard. With Lisa, let me ask you a question. Do you think that your time is more important or more valuable than anyone else's? And Lisa is stunned. She cannot believe that anyone's questioning her tardiness. Stephanie says, do you know how rude it is to make everyone wait for you? And Lisa tells Stephanie that she's the one that's being rude by questioning her. Meanwhile, Lisa made these women wait for 2 hours, not 20 minutes. 2 hours. Stephanie doesn't stop. Lisa keeps calling her rude. Meanwhile, Larsa and Marisol are loving the tongue lashing that Stephanie is giving her. And I have to say, honestly, so was I, loving it so much. I mean, that Lisa is Delulu. And honestly, next week looks like it's going to get even worse for her. Anyway, you guys, it is time for the season premiere of the original, the true OG Orange County. And it's funny, speaking of OGs, I heard Vicki Gunvalson made a statement about the show talking about how it's lost its way and how she doesn't even recognize it anymore. I'm sure she'd be recognizing it if she was still on it. I am telling you, she is such a hater. Anyway, here we go. The show, surprise, surprise, opens with Shannon Beador saying that she is a completely different person than she was last year. And don't you feel like she opens every season with that line? Because I do. Shannon says that she is entering a new chapter. She paid John off. The settlement was $60,000 and she just wants a fresh start. Meanwhile, Katie Janela wants a new car, so the two of them go shopping. And while they're looking at 7 Series Beamers, Shannon says that she was just with Emily and that she is really upset about the fact that Katie reached out to one of Emily's former nannies. But Katie says that nanny reached out to me to tell me that my daughter wasn't lying last year. And this nanny reached out to a podcast, the same podcast that Katie's daughter went on and explained her side of the story. You remember that story from last year involving Emily's kids and the babysitter and what was said and what wasn't? Katie apparently gave the nanny the podcaster's information and made that connection so that then she could go on the show and tell her side of the story too, the same way that Katie's daughter did. And then we have Gina and Travis. Those two are back together. They have officially moved into a new pad with more square footage. Gina goes on to tell us that she took an amazing trip to Bali, created a new relationship with the wind, and that taught her that she'd been living her life in fear and operating from fear and making decisions from fear. And that since she's had this awakening, she finally feels free. And I know it. I believe it. I've lived it. We all know that making decisions from fear will fuck your life up. Then Emily goes over to Gina's house and Gina tells her that she was just at the beach with Jen. And this is going to be more Katie stuff because I'm telling you guys, Katie is on every corner, lying at like every turn. So everybody seems to have a Katie story they're dealing with. Gina says that Jen told her that Emily's former nanny wants to ruin her life. And that's why she hooked up with that podcaster. And Emily is pissed that this podcaster is trying to create a narrative around what this babysitter said. Emily said, had Katie not connected that girl with that podcaster, then this whole thing wouldn't have gained any steam and it would have died out. And she's right, but Katie did connect her and the story got picked up. And then other podcasters picked it up. Not me, but other podcasters. Things are contentious and there is tension and you can feel it. Everybody is really on the out, so Gina tries to play peacekeeper and build a bridge. She tells Emily that she's going to have a meeting with Katie and she wants her to go with. And Emily doesn't want to go, but she begrudgingly agrees. Emily is stressed because Emily has way more pressing things on her plate, like whether or not her son is getting enough nutrition. Emily's son has recently been diagnosed with RFID, which is a resistance to food. And then we find out that this RFID may be a part of autism. And so poor Emily, she is just dealing with a lot right now. And honestly, my heart just broke for Emily. There's nothing harder than seeing your kids struggle with something and not knowing what to do or how to help. So poor Emily is worried on a lot of levels. And honestly, I love that woman. I think she is an amazing mother. And then we have Shannon, who is in her single era. And God knows how long this will last, but I'm here for it. Her kids are all out and about. One of them's actually in Paris with Heather and Terry's daughter. Speaking of Heather and Terry, they're in the middle of walking away from that huge mansion that they bought last season. Remember that? And then, after what feels like 100 years on this show, we see a very teary Tamra walk into her shrink's office. Tamra says that talking about the things that she has never wanted to talk about is really hard. But she's come to realize that you have to dig up those things that are really painful and deep. Because those are the things that come out when you get angry. And yes, Tamra, it's called unprocessed pain, and it can literally kill you. Trust me, I know. My lifetime of unprocessed pain landed me in a pain pill addiction that almost killed me. So trust me, I know how destructive it can be and how important it is to heal. And then Tamra starts talking about her sensory issues, and I went through that same thing too. She tells her therapist how she got annihilated by going on her podcast and telling the world that she was on the spectrum. But I gotta say, growing up in a domestic war zone landed me on the spectrum too. And honestly, I get why Tamra said what she said. The therapist told her something that finally made sense to her. She gave her some context and understanding, which gave Tamra hope. Tamra says, people think I don't have feelings, and that's just not true. And I'm tired of being called a horrible person when I'm not. And then they flash back to the old Tamra screaming and being reactive. And I have to say, Honestly, it reminded me so much of my former self because until I had my own awakening and realized my own worth, that is very much the way I walk through life. Because the truth is, until you actually heal those wounds will continue to win. Period. Bottom line. And they will keep winning until you do the work. And it is work. And it's scary. But I promise you, coming out on the other side is worth every single scary step. And if you need help getting unstuck so that you can start creating a life that you actually love living, hit up the coaching link in my bio and we will get you started. Anyway, Jen and Ryan are still engaged. She wants a proper wedding, but he wants to do it in board shorts and bikinis. Regardless of the dress code, Tamra will not be invited. Jen tells Ryan that Tamra has started therapy, and then that asshole poo-poos the whole thing. And then he goes on to say, in therapy, why would she need to go to therapy if that baptism she had 10 years ago didn't do everything? Hello, a baptism 10 years ago? Life is a series of shifts, sweetheart, and you never know which shift is going to be the one that introduces you to your real self. So yes, until you find the key that unlocks that door, you keep searching. Because every single step it takes to get here is a very important step in that process. It doesn't matter which one it was. And then Tamra and Heather and Emily all sit down for a plate of balls and a discussion about Katie, because every discussion seems to come back to Katie. Tamra tells the girls that Katie asked her why she blocked her. And Tamra says, you don't know why I blocked you? She goes on to tell the girls that there was a content creator that was accusing Tamra of running troll accounts. And Tamra says, and then I went on to Instagram and said, you're wrong, this is not me, and if you don't stop, I'm going to send my attorneys after you. And then come to find out, Katie reached out to this content creator that was coming after Tamra. And when Tamra confronts Katie about it, Katie lies and says, no, that's not the case. Meanwhile, Tamra pulls up a voicemail that's explaining the whole thing. And Katie looks at her phone and she's like, oh, I don't know. I'll have to go home and look into this. I promise I'll look into this. And as annoyed as Tamra is with Katie, she also has a new understanding of the way trauma can manifest later in your life. And so now she's looking at Katie with fresh eyes and maybe a little empathy. And now Tamra's wondering if maybe Katie is creating these relationships with these content creators because it makes her feel loved and important. Ding, ding, ding. Then Gina picks up Emily and the two of them head off for this coffee date with Katie. And Katie has no idea that Emily's coming. And when she sees her, she is shocked. And she even says to camera, this is an ambush. Katie says to the girls, listen, we all talk shit. And they said, not to bloggers. And then Emily goes in head first, balls to the wall, and almost takes her head off. And then it's time for Shannon to take all the girls to the Golden Door for some high-priced healing. And while all the girls are getting ready, we meet Shannon's new assistant, who could double as her fourth daughter or niece or little sister. I mean, did you see that? They are twins. Everyone arrives at the Golden Door, and Emily arrives with a list of all of Katie's lies. While they're waiting, Tamra says to her group, just keep me away from Jen, please. I just can't deal with that today. And Heather says, I don't get it. What happened since the reunion? And she says, what's happened since the reunion? They've come after me nonstop on social media. I mean, it's horrible. It's disgusting. Disgusting. I love Tamra and her long vowels. Tamra says that Jen and Ryan go online and say, your time's up, Eddie's gay, you're his beard. And then they cut to Jen and she says, yeah, I do go online and take some cheap shots at her. Tamra says that it's constant. And Jen doesn't deny it. And then we find out that Ryan, Mr. Guido the Pimp, has actually collaborated with that shady podcast. You know, the one that's in bed with Teresa, all about TRH. And honestly, all I can say about that is birds of a feather. Then all the women gather together. Katie is clearly the odd one out. I mean, pretty much everyone has a problem with Katie and her love of bloggers. I mean, she even told Jen that she was invited to one of their birthday parties. Gina says, Katie, by engaging with these bloggers, it feels like you're trying to hurt all of us. And Heather says, seriously, it needs to stop. Emily says, I had to hire an attorney because she can't keep her mouth shut. And then right after that, Katie, the girl who can't keep her mouth shut, invited them all to lunch. And Emily turns around and says, how am I supposed to meet with my attorney about suing a woman and then go and have lunch with you? And Katie says, because it's hot pot, and hot pot brings people together. And then Heather, like a boss, says, listen, at that last reunion, we all decided that we need to start doing things right and coming from a good place. But then Katie, you did it again to Tamra. And Tamra says, yeah, There was a girl attacking me on social media, and you and Matt reached out to her. Katie says, I didn't call her. She's lying. And Tamara called bullshit. Then Katie to the table says, Tamara and I have already talked about this. I told Tamara that I'd look at my phone to prove it to her. I just haven't looked yet. And everybody's like, well, now's your opportunity. Look now. Look now, Katie, grab your phone. So Katie, with this panic look on her face, picks up her phone, looks at it, and she says, I can't. It's on SOS. She's on SOS. I'm telling you guys something. This Katie is a complicated character. There is a lot behind that mask, and I am excited to see how the season plays out. SOS is right. Katie is sending one out right now. SOS. All right, everybody, that about does it for this episode of Generally Speaking. I need to hop in the car to get up to see my mama. Please keep her in your thoughts, everybody. Woo! I'm just telling you guys something. I'm warning you right now. There's going to be a lot of me fluctuating between laughter and tears because that's kind of the edge that we're on right now. You know, I'm just walking the line between loss and gratitude because there's just a lot coming up for me. Hi, sweetie. How cute is that? This little guy, he's the sweetest. All right, everybody, if you've been watching us on YouTube, please make sure you reach out and smash that subscribe button. If you've been listening on your favorite streaming platform, please make sure you leave us a comment, a 5-star rating. We would love that. If you'd like to reach me on socials, you can find me on TikTok at This Is Generally Speaking or on Instagram at The Jennifer Snook. And if you'd like to collaborate or have a question you'd like answered on the pod, you can reach me at jennifer@jennifersnook.com. All right, everybody, I have loved spending this time with you. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you one more time for all those prayers for my mom. I really, really appreciate it, you guys. All right, everybody, I've loved spending this time with you. Thank you so much for being here with me. And until we're together again, stay rooted in love, everybody. We'll see you next time.